Okay, I'd like to call the committee whole meeting for Monday, June 15th, 2026 to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gaffino.
Here.
Trustee Christensen.
Here.
Trustee Gately.
Here.
Trustee Lowry.
Here.
Trustee Nedved.
Here.
Trustee Salazar.
Here.
All right, thank you. Audience comments? Anybody else would like to speak? No? Okay. Trustee comments? Seeing none, we'll move to first item under discussion. Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. First item on discussion tonight is a special use request for motor vehicle rentals. This is at 101 South Lincoln Way. It's the BP gas station on Route 31. They are looking to have a small number of U-Haul trucks on site to rent out through their establishment in the location where the car wash used to be that we had demolished due to code violations. That being said, Nathan is going to walk us through the special use request.
Okay, so 101 South Lincoln Way, the former BP gas station. The car wash in back has been demolished. If you recall, that was a long-standing code complaint. The current owners who took over recently have been working to fix the building up. So they demolished the car wash, they fixed up the C-store, and now they're requesting to rent a small number of U-Haul trucks and trailers from the site. Rental of vehicles is a special use, so they had to go through the special use process. They were at the last planning commission. Their plan is to have one vehicle here for display, and the other 5 vehicles in the back here, 6 vehicles total. The site currently has 13 parking spaces, so that meets the zoning ordinance for parking counts. The Planning Commission reviewed it at their last meeting. They asked to ensure that no parking on John Street would be allowed for either the trucks or the patrons. So we added that as a condition in. Otherwise, they voted to approve. With that, although I'm not sure, I don't think I see the owner here. With that, any questions for the board?
Yeah, I just had one that says 5 trucks. Is it or trailers?
6 vehicles total.
Right, or trailers. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
Okay. Yep. Fine. Yep. Thank you, Nathan. All right. Item 2, Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 2 is the discussion tonight for it. There's a few different things. So there's an annexation agreement, a map amendment, and a planned use development approval ordinance for the Shodine development known as Randall Oaks. Tonight, Nathan is going to go through a presentation, as will Shodine. In the meantime, just as I like to do with these larger complex projects, I just want to remind the board that tonight, depending on how you go through this, remember that it's an annexation agreement. So first and foremost, this property is not located within the village of North Aurora. It is surrounded by North Aurora, but it is unincorporated. So they need an annexation agreement to come in, which is one of the things that we'll be talking about. The PUD, obviously, Nathan will go through the zoning aspects of the plan unit development. When you have a complex development like this, if you have any questions or thoughts, after this meeting, you have the right to not only go forward to the village board for approval, but you can also bring it back for another discussion if you'd like, or you can remand it back to the plan commission. It is up to the village board, depending on how you feel on the presentation tonight. That being said, Nathan is going to walk us through.
Okay, so the subject property is on the west side of Randall Road and in between the dead ends of Miller Drive. It was originally home to the Fox Valley Baptist Church, if you can remember back to 2000 or so, but it's been vacant since about 2006. The board saw a concept plan for it in 2024, and Shodine's been working on the plan since then to bring it forward tonight. The property would need to be annexed to the village, zoned R4 and B2, and have a special use for a planned unit development approved. So currently the properties to the north and south are all zoned B2. While B2 is commercial zoning, you can do apartments in B2 and mixed use buildings in B2 as part of a special use or a PUD. So the plan calls for 260 dwelling units and 32,000 square feet of commercial. West of Miller Drive, so it also obviously calls for Miller Drive to be connected through. On the west side of Miller Drive, there would be 178 units arranged in 5 different buildings. These buildings would each be 3 stories, with underground parking at 1 space for each unit in the building. And then the surface parking lots bring the parking ratio to 1.6 spaces per unit total. But each unit gets a parking space in the garage down below. On the east side of Miller, there is 1 regular 3-story apartment building, 1 4-story mixed-use building with the ground floor being commercial, and then 3 stories of apartments above, and then 2 commercial outlet pads. What they're showing here is kind of typical commercial developments. They would be marketing to any retail or restaurant type tenant. So you might get some, tweaking of the drive-through depending on what the specific tenant would need. But right now they're just kind of showing a basic footprint. They are showing a full access point on Randall Road. This full access point is in the middle between the 2 lights. So at Oak and Comiskey, it's kind of right in the middle there. So that's why it was able to be full access. There was not an opposing turn lane already there. There's also a clubhouse, which is back on the east side here. Clubhouse with a pool. The pond is to the east, and then the creek and wetlands, they're not touching. So the Waterford subdivision is over here. You'd have the Waterford subdivision, the Nicor gas line, the creek and wetlands, then their pond and their building. So this building, which is the farthest west building, is approximately 500 feet from the nearest home in Waterford Oaks. There are several code exceptions that have been requested. The Plan Commission did hold their public hearing at the last meeting. They did vote to approve the project, but they, on a certain of these code exceptions, they did not recommend approval. So they recommended approval for the overall project, but the 4-story building, they recommended against that exception. They thought it should be 3-story. The landscaping exception, they voted against that one. And the code exception for the 11-foot setback for the closest point of the clubhouse, they asked for that to be reviewed to see if that building could be shifted some. So that's kind of where the project stands now. I'm going to invite Dave Patzel from Shodine up, and he has some slides to show you some of the pictures of the product.
Good evening. For the record, my name is David Patzel, P-A-T-Z-E-L-T, 77 North 1st Street, Geneva, Illinois, 60134. I'm going to have about 20 some slides. Unfortunately, it's a lot of slides. I'm going to try to talk very fast and get you through those slides. So if I get going too fast, please somebody raise your hand and I'll slow down. The intent of these slides is to show you some of the products that are we have built and developed over the years that are all relevant to the project that you have before you today. So to start off, for those of you who don't know, Shodine is a local developer based in Geneva. We've been in business for 65 years. Predominantly, our work is done from Kendall County on the south through Walworth County on the north. We generally do not go east of Route 59 and really don't go west of DeKalb. We have not done any project in North Aurora that I'm familiar with or know of, and I've been with the organization 32 years now. So this would be our first project here in North Aurora. These photographs that you see before you now include some of the residential products. On the far left, it's a 3-story over 1 parking. It is an apartment product. Lower left, you see 3 stories over 1 level of underground parking. Again, gives you a little bit of diversity in the architectural styles of the products that we offer. We're also in the hotel and restaurant business. although we would not be proposing a restaurant on any of these commercial outlets that are proposed at Randall Oaks, but we certainly own land and are a landlord for restaurants as a whole. Next slide, please. Very similar type of product with mixed use is our Dotson Place development downtown Geneva, with the upper left photograph shows residential over mixed use. On the first floor, lower left gives you an idea of what our kitchens look like. You heard some comments from a prior speaker raising questions about our apartment finishes. We provide what we believe are upgraded products to your traditional apartment. We are marketing and advertising and charging rents for what we call luxury apartments. Those items include granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, crown molding on the cabinets, and also varied height in the cabinets to add some architectural interest to those kitchens. Next slide, please. Another project much larger in density is the St. Charles Prairie Center, consisting of 770 residential units, 60,000 square feet of commercial space, a public park. All of the residential units are 3 levels of residential over 1 underground parking level, and then there is a mixed use building that is 4 stories with a flat roof, and we'll talk a little bit about a flat roof mixed use building versus a pitched roof mixed use building here in a few minutes. Next slide, please. Another project that we have done down in Oswego is our Reserve at Hudson Crossing. That is actually 4 stories of apartments over 2 levels of parking for a total of 6 floors. Within the middle of the building, inside the courtyard, not visible from the outside, is a green roof with a swimming pool, bocce ball, barbecue stands, and outdoor space. Again, inside, like most of our developments, there is meeting rooms and fitness rooms associated with that product. Next slide. We're going to be showing you some building elevations for the 3 stories over 1 level of parking. These are samples again of similar products that we have built. The one in the upper left is out at our Mill Creek development, or I'm sorry, upper left and upper right are at our Mill Creek development. Lower right is in St. Charles Prairie Center. Lower left also is at Mill Creek. Again, trying to show you a diversity of architectural styles and colors and features on the exterior. Next slide, please. Also, we'll be talking about mixed use. These are examples of mixed use. In essence, we have first floor commercial space that can be anything from retail to office to a restaurant. Top one shows 2 floors of residential over 1 mixed use or commercial space on the first floor. Lower left, again, is the flat roof with 3 levels of residential over first floor commercial space for a total of 4 levels plus the underground parking. Next slide. At Randall Oaks, this is a building elevation of the proposed architectural style. Again, with that yellow dotted line in the brown section is illustrating the underground parking. So you will be seeing from the black line or the dark brown above grade, and that is 3 levels of residential with a pitched roof. Something that you may want to note, as we're going to probably talk a little bit about building height, is this building is drawn with 3 levels in the pitched roof at a height of 43 feet 8 inches. So that number I'm going to refer to again later on, 43 feet 8 inches. Next slide. Give you a perspective in the upper left hand of what the building looks like. From a perspective standpoint, if you were bird flying by, and then on the lower right, if you had questions about how we access the underground parking, that gives you an idea on the ends of the building where we access the vehicles access the building. Next slide. You've heard Nathan mention about all of the apartments have at least one parking space below grade. In addition, below grade, that is a heated space for all of the vehicles. There is elevator access to that lower level. All of the trash is received in a dumpster enclosed room from trash chutes that go up vertically through the building. That includes recycling. So residents that are up on first, second, and third floor are not carrying their waste in the elevator or down the stairs. They're dropping it down a chute and goes into the garbage receptacles. Next slide. First floor, then above grade is residential. You'll see that it's a spread of 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and studios. We do not offer any 3-bedroom units. Next slide. To give you an idea of what was proposed to the Plan Commission, this is the 3 stories of residential over 1 level of commercial, again, with the underground parking. So in essence, we've added, I refer to it as adding another layer to the cake. It was adding the commercial level. There's still 1 parking per residential unit under the building. The mixed use space being commercial is all outdoor parking. They do not park inside the building. That again is secured parking. To give you an idea of the actual height up to the ridge line, this is 57 feet 1 inch. Should note that the North Aurora Building Code does not measure the height of the building to the ridge line on a pitched roof. That measures it to the average height of that pitched roof. However, to not be deceiving to you at all, I wanted to make sure that we're trying to compare apples to apples. This is at a 57 foot 1 inch, and you're going to see another dimension here in a few minutes with an alternate to a flat roof building.
Can I ask a quick question? So on the rendering, it looks like all the windows are depicted in light blue. Is that correct? All the windows?
The windows are depicted in light
I'm just
blue.
curious why they're depicted in blue. Because it makes a building look much more colorful than it actually would be, because those are windows, correct?
I agree with you. They should not be blue.
Okay, I just want to be sure that.
They are not to be blue tinted, but it appears that that's the back screen of the rendering, but that's not correct. Next slide, please. Again, this building, the mixed use, like all of our buildings, I'm showing you a front and rear elevation. This is the rear elevation. You'll probably say it looks very similar to the front elevation. We consider these buildings to be 4 fronted elevations, meaning that there's no side that looks just like a back of a building. It looks like the front. The only difference between these buildings, which one is the front, is that the main entry to the residential unit is to us considered on the front of the building. Next slide. Again, give you a perspective, if you're a bird flying by, to see what the building would look like, and then the underground parking garage, how we access that again at the ends of the building, and then grade carries up around that around the corners of that building to be at grade on the other 3 sides of the building. Next slide. To give you a different perspective, since it came up at the Plan Commission, we went back to the architects and asked them to give us a rendering of the same building with a flat roof and give us the dimension there. So this 3 stories on top of commercial is at 50 feet 11 inches. Again, measured to the highest portion of the roof. With that flat roof, we did give it some accent in bumping up the central portion of the building. So you have those 43, 50, and the 57 foot different dimensions when measured to the actual peak or the high part of the highest roof elevation. Next slide, please. Front and rear. So similar again, the building is we call it a 4-sided building, all fronting elevation. Next slide, please. A perspective elevation, again, with the garage access. Next slide, please. There's also a clubhouse proposed on this site. The clubhouse shown here with a swimming pool, lounge, media room, fitness room. if you look at the private road, which is actually Miller Drive, is curved, and the fitness building is, I'll call it square. And the concern was that that very lower right corner that Nathan's pointing to now, that setback distance at that closest point is 11 feet from the right-of-way line. Miller Drive is a public road. It's from the right-of-way line. So the right-of-way line, in essence, is 1 foot closer to the building than the sidewalk. So you still have the width of the sidewalk and then the parkway, and then getting to the curb. If you wanted to know what the setback was in our traditional method of where does a commercial building, what is it set back from the actual parking curb, that is going to be approximately 25 to 30 feet to that point of the building. Knowing that the Plan Commission asked for a review of this, we believe that there is an opportunity to slide this building further west or left as you look at that plan, increasing that 11-foot dimension. It may decrease the distance, which is 38 feet between the 38 unit building and the west wall of the clubhouse. We also believe that we may be able to slide that 38 unit building west slightly and slide the clubhouse left. All of those are attempts to satisfy the Plan Commission that we've increased that setback again from the corner, that very corner of the building. Next slide, please.
Is it just that corner there that you're concerned about, or how far away is the pool area as well? Because that looks pretty close.
Plan Commission was very concerned about that 11-foot corner of the building. Biggest concern was if you're traveling Miller Drive, being able to see around that corner. That's why I brought up to the Plan Commission, when we talk about the setback, we're talking about a setback from a right-of-way line, not to be confused with a setback line from the back of a curb, or you're traveling or line of travel when you're in the vehicle. So there is a significant difference in that. We've run the site distance triangle, and there's no issue with the site distance, but again, trying to accommodate the Plan Commission and hear their concern that 11 feet is tight. We haven't given up with, and we believe that we're going to be able to pick up some distance. What is that distance? I'm not trying to play a game with inches. I think it's several feet that we'll be able to slide that over.
What about moving it north a little bit?
So that is another option. However, we're trying to maintain that green space on the north side of all of the buildings running in an east-west direction. I appreciate the suggestion, but I really believe that we're going to be able to slide everything left or west to hopefully satisfy everyone. Any other questions on this slide before I move on? Next slide. I've provided you with the building elevations of the clubhouse. It's a single story building, so really no discussion about height. If you wanted to know the height, again, the highest point is 21 feet to 21 feet 2 inches. Next slide, please. Perspective of that clubhouse and the swimming pool. There you get a relatively good idea of that setback again, of that corner of the building and the amount of that green space, and then the parkway, and the fence and the pool. That to me, that is relatively see-through. Next slide, please. Again, just another perspective. Again, some interior finishes we do take great care on the interior of our units. We believe that we, as I said, are serving a luxury product. Heated parking garage, all elevated access, garbage chute, gigaspeed fiber to each of the apartments. you have your self-storage space within the building. Again, this gives you a perspective of the product that we're offering. Upper left-hand corner, when I was making reference to the tops of the cabinets are pushed up and down. Traditionally, what you see in most apartments is a straight horizontal line at the top of the cabinets, but again, adding architectural interest to the interior of the space. Lower left-hand corner, you see our corridors. Our corridors are not just your typical rectangular long tunneled corridor. We break up those corridors with they're fake pilasters, or lead you to believe that there's half columns on the left and right, and then there's also a patterned carpet, as well as wainscoting down in the hallway. Next slide, please. All of the units are individually metered, so you can see the electric meter as the example that you would find in the garage of the building. Every apartment unit, regardless of size, is provided with one storage unit, as we do not permit any storage of materials or personal belongings on balconies. Every unit does have a balcony. So any bicycles, sports equipment, toys, things of that nature need to be placed into storage and not on our balconies. Every unit has an in-apartment laundry machine, so there's no common area for laundry. Everything is contained within your unit. Next slide, please. There's been some discussion about the parking demand, and anticipating that topic may come up, wanted to give you a little bit of information on it. As I've noted here, your current ordinance is 2 parking spaces per residential unit. Commercial demand 4 spaces per 1,000, and then a restaurant demand at 1 space per 60 square feet of seating. As Nathan indicated, we have a large amount, or we meet the ordinance for the anticipated commercial. Depending on when those users come along, that parking demand may fluctuate or change depending on who that user is. However, we have provided a large amount of parking and believe that we will meet the ordinance for the commercial and the outlots. What the ordinance does not consider is a vacancy of uses. As much as we'd like to say we're going to be at 100% occupancy, we know that we're not going to be at 100% occupancy. At 260 units, there's always going to be somebody moving out and somebody moving in. Industry standard is if you can get to a 95% occupancy, you're doing great. Our parking counts that we're referring to and are showing, our calculations are based on the 100% occupancy. So keep in mind that there is going to be that 5 to 10% loss where somebody's not in the residential unit or within that commercial space. The ordinance does not contemplate the concept of shared parking. Shared parking in this case may be that I live in the apartment and I'm going to walk down to whether it's an office space or the fitness room, or I'm going to the restaurant. So I'm not driving my car. So in theory, I'm not taking up one space for my parking at home and then 1 space or 2 spaces at the commercial use. So there's the shared parking ratio. We do not allow reserved parking. So reserved parking is a first come, first serve. Technically, if you have reserved parking, you're restricting that to only that one user. We do not permit that. The ordinance does not contemplate design hours. Typically, design hours are things such as a donut shop may open up early. They may close at lunchtime. Residents may be home more in the evening than during the daytime. Dinner restaurant office space may be open during the heart of the day and versus maybe more busy as a restaurant may be busier in the evening. So fluctuations in the users, fluctuations in the commercial space, and fluctuation in the time that the residents are actually home. That is we refer to as some of the designed hours. Walkability and also public transportation have not been necessarily accounted for. All of these items that I make reference to, there's a plethora of narrative discussion, how it is implemented, what reality is on parking spaces, and whether it's the Urban Land Institute, the Institute of Transportation and Development, they all have periodicals and data relative to these various shared ratios and reductions to parking. In other communities that we have worked with, and their consultants have agreed with some of these philosophies and alterations to the parking demand. Next slide, please. Some of our actual own data that we are sharing with you tonight. The top table is as of the first of last month. We looked at our Oswego property, our Geneva property, and our St. Charles property. And as you look at the couple of things I'd like to identify first for you is that something of interest. If you look at our age of our population that's in some of our buildings, our average age is actually at about 43. So we're somewhat of an older clientele with pushing an average of up to 51. Again, heated garage, luxury living in a rental product. I think the product that we're proposing indicates or suggests that we're trying to get an older clientele into that apartment product. Our building down in Oswego, admittedly, is a lower age group. As soon as you put in an enclosed within the center of the donut private space for the outdoor pool, the bocce ball, the barbecue grill, that really becomes an entertainment space. That building was geared more towards the younger generation and those that are looking to be more active and social within the community in which they live. Again, sidebar, that's really talking about ages, but it'll give you an idea of what age I think we're going to be at an older age clientele here in North Aurora. As you move across, you can see that we have studios, 1 beds and 2 beds. There was a question raised at the Plan Commission about sure you're looking at your parking ratio relative to a unit count. What does it look like relative to a bedroom count? So I indicate that the total number of bedrooms. But in essence here, our average is, if in the center there, you see the number of cars per unit that we are averaging at 1.21 spaces or 1.21 cars per apartment. And you can see that is based on over almost 1,100 cars of people that are currently renting from us in a variety of neighborhoods. In comparison, the chart at the bottom, I wanted to share with you the number of bedrooms and the unit count. We are proposing at a 1.6 per apartment, so significantly above the 1.21 that we're currently experiencing, and also then at a 1.14 based on our total bedroom count of 366 bedrooms, in comparison to when we looked at the number of cars per bedroom, we average at a 0.97. So again, roughly 20% more parking spaces than what we currently experience out of almost 1,100 vehicles. Do want to make a note that there was a reference by one of the public speakers that I think he suggested that there's 400 apartments. We do not have 400 apartments here. We're at 260. So that 260 apartments is what's shown in our plans. And as you can see here in this chart, under the total units, you can see that we have 260 that we reviewed. Next slide, please. I would like to offer a couple other comments or thoughts on the traffic study. We did have a traffic study completed by KLOA. KLOA is a licensed traffic engineering firm, local here, well-versed for 25 plus years in the Kane County area. That study takes into account the current traffic volume that was there a couple months ago when they did the study, plus that study added vehicles for any currently approved, even if they were under construction, any approved uses that would be provided there. Plus, it added in the proposed uses per this plan. Plus, it takes into growth over the next 20 years in Kane County as to what factors are used by Kane County and CMAP for planned growth within the Randall Road corridor. So that traffic study accounted for all of that traffic. They did complete the study for the full access onto Randall. That traffic study came back positive, meaning that it supported the full access point. It did not meet warrants for any signalization at time of construction, and it did not meet warrants for signalization at during the growth period of I believe it's 20 years. As Nathan indicated, we met the IDOT and KDOT standards for distances between full access points, and then further that traffic study and the layout of the decel lanes or the tapers and the stacking met all of the standards, and it does fit within the existing right-of-way and existing striped pavement that is there today. That traffic study then was reviewed by the village's engineer. There were some comments, some additional information was requested. That information was prepared by our traffic study consultant, resubmitted back to the village engineer, and the village engineer had no further comments on that traffic study, and I believe in essence approved that traffic study and the justification for the full access point. Lastly, there's a comment made about the transparency of the traffic study. Traffic study was part of the public documentation at the Plan Commission. Traffic study was also on the village's website for anybody to view, download, study, and question. That concludes my presentation, but I'm available for any questions, whether it be now or if you want to have your discussion and want me to come back.
I have a few questions. How many, so there's 260 units total. How many studio, one bedroom and two bedroom?
So, Nathan, could you go back to that chart? I believe that on the left-hand side of that chart.
See, I didn't see that.
So that we're looking at the chart on the bottom. And then if you look at the far right, it says beds per building. So your question was how many beds?
Each unit, how many studios, how many one bedroom, and how many two bedrooms?
Total units. I thought I had included that in the chart, but I think it must be in one of my math calculations. You can tell that from the studios and the one beds.
Can you blow that bottom chart up a little just to see?
So the four, since there's no bedrooms in those studios, that would be, there's 4 studios in each type of that building. Then the next column happens to be one beds. So,
I got it now. Yeah. So looks like you got, just looking at it, there's more 1 and 2 bedrooms in their studios.
The other way to look at it is if you took the 366 divided by the 260, you're going to average is at approximately 1.25 to 1.5 beds per apartment.
So what's the square footage of a studio?
Just under 800 square feet.
And one bedroom?
About 900 square feet.
Two bedroom?
about 1,100 square feet.
So I had a question. The entrance there off of Randall, is that does KDOT have to prove that also part of any agreement, or is this approved or?
So this stretch of Randall Road is under our control, and I don't believe we need a KDOT review for a curb cut.
I
Why
believe
just-
when we amended the IGA a number of years ago, they're only like involved if it's closer to Orchard Road than where this would be.
There was discussion with them too, but
Yeah, there was, but I think now we amended it where it's just further north that's affected. So
What's the average rental fee for the apartments?
I'm sorry.
What's your rental fee, monthly fee?
It is about $2 per square foot.
Okay.
Per month.
Nathan, can you go back to that original, the three issues that Plan Commission had? And I didn't quite understand the landscape one there at the bottom. Can you
So
explain that?
this was the list of code exceptions, originally presented. The landscape one was just saying that that was mostly for the commercial areas because we don't know exactly who the tenants are going to be. So it's just saying to follow the plan instead of precise code. Plan Commission didn't want to grant that leeway, and I think Dave has said that's fine. We'll take that one out. That's kind of the least one on there. The 4-story is really the big one.
So explain about the roof and measuring and the medium area and all that stuff.
Sure. So the Plan Commission said 3-story. Dave is in his presentation here is kind of offering a middle proposal of keep 4-story but go to a flat roof, which would bring down the height. So if you had the 4-story with the hip roof, that's 57. 4-story with a flat roof is 50.
So what is our 3-story maximum height?
So currently, the regular buildings would be 3 stories or 35 feet, I think. But again, our code measures it from the average height of a hipped roof, so it's not really easy to graphically show. The 3-story buildings here, if you go to the top of the peak, are at 46.
40, you're correct, 46.
I do have some concern about the parking because there's always problems parking. And, a lot of it is, you said somebody moves in, somebody moves out, could be the same day. Then you said at 95% occupancy, I think there'd be like 13 spaces. And it's like, once it's in, and, everybody can give us stats and things. And, I just don't know if our code is 2, we should really hang our hat on 2 personally, but.
I think the best example probably is the St. Charles Prairie Center. It's something that's reasonably close by. Any one of the village trustees could drive through there and see whether they think it's overcrowded or not overcrowded. Currently, the city of St. Charles does not have any issues with that product. And if you wouldn't mind, Nathan, going back to that chart, it's along the Randall Road corridor. It's not near an immediate train station or anything of that sort. I'm sorry, the one with the parking ratio. Just thought we could look at the St. Charles number. So St. Charles, that is currently being number of cars is at a 1.16. So almost a 30 to 40% increase is what we're proposing in North Aurora versus what is currently experienced in St. Charles. That is very similar 3-story underground, and that's measured at. There's currently 511 cars registered at that location. Of those users, nobody's complaining.
How about when they have visitors or family, or it's Christmas, and where's everybody? Is there like auxiliary parking for guests, or
That's all.
it?
That is. These are the registered vehicles. Any guests are over and above these numbers. And again, no complaints, and we don't have any issues. Biggest detriment to us as the owner, and operator, if people can't park there, they're not going to want to rent there. So we want to make sure we're providing enough parking for not only the residents, but also their guests.
I'd be inclined with agreeing with the mayor that I think we should stick with our ordinance levels of 2 parking spots myself. And I do have a question though about the full access. Is there going to be a left turn lane going north?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm okay with that. So, and I'm real concerned about the 4 stories though, sir. I don't know if I can go with that or not, regardless of the flat roof. So
that did come up at Plan Commission, and try to get some interaction or discussion with them. Certainly if you're going to say, okay, no to 4 stories, is it the pitched roof or the flat roof? They didn't want to comment or didn't have any opinion. Unfortunately, I didn't have a building elevation that showed the flat roof. They also did not comment on whether you take out the commercial level or you take out the residential level. So if you're going to reduce it by 1 floor, which floor or which use do we take out? Believe it or not, I have a bigger difficulty with taking out a residential level. The parking ratio of the 1 space per unit underground really works based on our 3 levels of residential. So if you were to take out a residential level, I'm now going to be left with, in essence, parking spaces that are in excess of the 1.0 under the building. That creates another problem in the math calculation. The most expensive parking space to construct is one inside a building underneath the building in a heated parking garage. So you're in essence removing a residential level affects me very much so, because I can't just say we take out 25 units. I can't easily take out 25 parking spaces.
Can you offer that to the business owner?
For security purposes, we don't do that and would not want to do that, meaning that then that business owner could potentially be getting into the secured residential portion through the residential elevator. That elevator doesn't stop at any of the commercial retail spaces.
I had another question about the height. I know in Geneva, I've seen a lot of the grades where it looks like you've added dirt to add that underground parking. Are we talking about a height at the current level of the ground, or are you planning on building it up?
It would be whether it's built up and or at grade. So all of your village ordinance and those other cities measure grade at what the true dirt grade is around the building. You'll see that happens often when the site is not perfectly flat. Building has to be perfectly flat, and if it's sloped, you tend to see more dirt piled up at one end of the building and perhaps not at the other. So it's accommodating that the pitch and the natural slope of the land. You bring up Geneva. The building code in Geneva is 50 feet for their maximum building height per code, in comparison to your 3-story. And Nathan, did you say 35?
I think, but I'd have to double check that. The site is fairly flat. These would be depressed ramps going down to the garages, if that's what you're getting.
Interesting thought though, because you can build a pad that's 10 feet off the ground, and then the thing is 80 feet in the air. So I mean, it's just all these little nuances that none of us think about, know about, and it happens.
Yeah, that would need to be required, that it's going underground.
Also, I mean, I don't like the idea of 4 stories. I think that it just would be kind of an eyesore there. It would be very, to me, intrusive. And my suggestion would have been to cut one of the residential floors, but you've just explained why you'd prefer not to do that. You would rather have that be commercial. The other thing that I'm I'm just thinking about here is that we have, we do have quite a few new residential or apartment, right, areas that have just been developed recently, and you're apparently not worried about, oversaturation of apartments, but I think that the density is very high. I can see that. And under renderings of the buildings, when I look at the one that in Geneva, that's a beautiful building. Bottom is all beautiful stone and they're sort of yellow on top, and it's very aesthetically nice. In the renderings that you have here, it's really hard for me to sort of tell because the windows are blue, making it look much more colorful than it's obviously going to actually look. And to me, it's just very sort of that the outside finishes are not, maybe as high end as I would rather see there. But I still say I just think it's a lot. I'm not sure. And the 4 stories for me is almost a deal breaker.
Nathan, could you, looking for the, probably the most similar elevation would be the Mill Creek building. Maybe get back to, keep going. Stop there. So I would say similar to the North Aurora Randall Oaks product would be more similar to the upper left and the lower left. And you can see the first floor on like the corners of the building there are the stone. And you're not getting the blue in the windows. So I don't know if that's helping you, and also gives you some shadow.
It's certainly a better depiction, yes. So the stone is just sort of at the entrance. It's a little bit hard to tell. There's not a lot of stone. There's no stone on the facades. They're just sort of along the way, pillars.
So you also mentioned that the commercial outlet spots are not necessarily guaranteed to be restaurants. What can we do to guarantee that they're restaurants? Because we don't need a TJ Maxx or another car wash or gas station or whatever else.
What can we do to guarantee it? Staff and myself discussed how we get restaurants to come there. I can tell you that in other communities, new restaurants, unless you have an existing restaurant that a restaurateur is able to backfill and go into a vacant restaurant, new restaurants are extremely difficult because of the upfront cost to build out a new restaurant. With that being said, what other communities are doing, they're offering financial inducements to those restaurant users. Those inducements come in the form of whether they're grants or low interest loans, sales tax rebates. And I can tell you that we have other communities that are offering inducements, and we still are having a challenge of trying to get a restaurant user onto those onto the whether it's a commercial outlet or into a mixed use building.
You did mention though that you're in the restaurant business as well, and you're builders. So I kind of feel like that kills 2 birds with 1 stone.
It does, and again, our own pro forma is why one of the reasons we're not expanding our restaurant business is because of the cost to build a restaurant space.
I think that inducement should come from the builder, not from our community and taxpayers. So I think that's wouldn't be good. I also think if this does go forward, that a lot of times the commercial space is the last one to be built because nobody has a end user, and it's like, is that building going to be done first and filled, or is there going to be a ghost town out there, or what?
It sounds much more likely than not that there will not be restaurants in there, according to what the gentleman is saying. So we certainly don't want more empty storefront space along Randall Road.
Paths or walking trails?
Yes, there is. On the site plan, it's indicated going, as Nathan is pointing there, with out around the stormwater pond and out towards the creek.
Does that go around, or it looks like it just kind of goes and then it stops?
I believe that is go in the center. If you can zoom in at the center of that pond, I think there's a label there. It's just indicating that it's the top, but I believe that that was intended to be the path going around the top of the berm.
The bottom one as well just goes to nowhere.
While Nathan's looking that up, I just want to remind the board that because this is an annexation agreement, you do have the ability to go outside of our zoning code a little bit in your requests. You can ask for things that are generally not written in our code.
Yeah, so I would agree with almost every concern that our plan commission had. So as well as sounds like the rest of the board, as far as parking, we have an ordinance for a reason. I think every developer we've had the last few years here, one of the main things is always we want to reduce parking. And obviously the reason most of the time developers want to do this because they're trying to cram a lot into a little space. So I would agree that I would not be interested in that part of it. I don't remember all the details of the original concept plan, but I think you said it was 2024. But I know I wasn't a huge fan of it to begin with, the whole project. So the 4-story part of it, absolutely, I remember being against that. Just to be consistent with other developers in town, we've shut down since, again, we have the ordinance for a reason. That entrance off Randall, again, maybe it meets any requirements, whatever requirements you mentioned, but heck, coming down Randall myself, I'll zip in that, to go to Aldi or Walgreens myself, and I couldn't imagine a car just pulling out there hoping, because that's what, 50 miles an hour, I believe. Right. So that is a concern of mine as well. But personally, more than all those, as I'm looking at this, there's just a lot crammed into a small space there. So again, I don't remember being a fan of this 2 years ago. And personally, I don't think I'm a fan of it anymore now than then. So that's right, Stan.
We also talk about the height of that commercial building, and that is at like almost the top of the grade of the entire property. So it will be standing quite a bit higher than everything else behind it.
Anybody else? I don't like the 4-story either. So, and I agree with everybody with the density. I just think it's jammed in there. It's just, maybe there's a better use for that property than this. So what do you need from us, Steve?
Just some consensus from the board on which way to go. So if you, as I said earlier tonight, you have multiple options. You can bring the concept forward as is to the village board for a vote. You can send it back to the plan commission for some concerns to go over some of the things you raised tonight. You can bring it back. You can request the developer to bring back more information to an upcoming committee of the whole meeting. Or you have a fourth option, which is if you don't want to go forward with this concept at all, but want to continue to work, you can direct the staff to work with Shodine and see where if we can come back with a revisement.
That's where I'd be at number 4. I mean, they come back with less density and clean it up some and see, no guarantees either.
Yeah, we need to have something in there with the restaurant as well. If it's going to be part of the plan, there needs to be either a plan to fill that space ahead of completion, or we need to have that built out for a potential restaurant.
Where I sit is just that I'm sorry, that's too loud. Where I sit on that is just that I'm really against the 4 stories, and it's just too much density. So I'm with number 4, as you said. Maybe if we can retool it in some way that there's less density, to me, it should be much more aesthetically pleasing than what I see these renderings of now.
Yeah, the landscape plan, can they look at that one more time? Do you have that for, I'm just wondering the buffer between the homes on Oak, yeah, I can't even think of the house is a street there just to the west of that property. I mean, is there any buffer? And so pine
Yeah, so
trees or?
this is the site plan. I apologize. I don't know the landscape plan, but Waterford Oaks would be here. That's the gas line. That's the creek. That's the wetlands. That's their pond, and then that's built.
Enough screenage there in that wetland area, or is that, you know, that we can add more landscape in, or?
The wetlands aren't going to be touched except for one water line connection at the stub of Waterford. The water line connection is that right there, comes across. But otherwise, it's not going to be, you know, clear cut or anything down there.
Yeah, I don't even know what it looks like now. Is it a lot of trees? Jason, is it?
There's some decent trees in there.
Yeah, okay, so you guys work with them and see where it goes.
Thank you.
All right, item 3, Steve.
Thank you. Item number 3 tonight is an update on our North Aurora Fox River Dam potential removal study that is being done by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. Let me see if I can bring this up. Here we go. Okay. So as the board might recall, the last presentation was done by the Illinois Department of Resources in December of 2025, so roughly 6 months ago. At that time, that was the culmination of a study that had been going on for over 2 years by the IDNR to take a look at our Fox River Dam. They are looking at other dams along the Fox River for potential removal, as well as they are looking to increase safety and to also restore ecological ecosystems in the area. At the time, if the study focused on whether or not the dam was removed, if there was an alternative type of dam removal that would be looked at by the board. So for instance, they were looking at full dam removal, but then they presented 9 other options in which they took a good amount of time and a lot of effort to study to see how they would affect, each one would affect water flow in the river and the adjacent shorelines. Tonight, we're going to go a little deeper. Based on that discussion 6 months ago, it was really identified that should the village ever choose to move forward with removing the dam, there was really only one option outside of full removal that the village was interested in. So we're going to go through that. And tonight's more about pictures to show you actual results of what's anticipated if something gets removed. So we're going to some of the science, but we're also going to show you some of what it might look like. With that being said, I just want to remind you, this is not a decision-making meeting tonight. This isn't, deciding whether or not the dam's coming out. This is simply to give us direction on whether or not we want to go the next steps, which would be, if we want to continue the study, go through the process of more public input where we actually have a special meeting with the public. That being said, I'm going to walk us through. Okay, as I said earlier, we're going to go over the project overview, evaluate alternatives, some pros and cons of the 2 options that are being discussed, the cost, and then the steps. We thought we'd start with something simple. Everybody knows our dam. This is what it looks like. The one picture that is really cool is on the right side. That is the dam when it was built in 1976. You can see there's no water on it. And that is how it's built. It's not a steep dam like you see in some of these other towns, like maybe Geneva or St. Charles. Our dam is a step down dam. So it actually looks like a staircase. We found these pictures at Public Works. You can see, and it's important because when everyone says, what will it look like if the dam gets removed? We actually had a dam in place in 1975. It failed, and that water then breached and created a similar situation to whether the dam was there or not. So you see the picture there. We thought it would be cool to show you 1975 and then show you this picture after. This is the dam being built. You can see where the excavator is in that picture. Village Hall was right behind it. But if you look at that picture on the right, what you see behind it is that's essentially what you might see behind where the dam is today. That is what you might see. You can see there's an island that's starting to protrude. We have some better pictures that might show what that would look like. So as we discussed earlier, there were 10 options looked at by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. The Illinois Department of Natural Resources goal is full dam removal because for them, that is what creates the ecosystem balance, and that is what creates the safety by removing the dam. For us, we said we are very interested in continuing the study, but if the dam was removed, we have concerns about saving the mill race and making sure that there's water in it. Option number 6, the straight culvert option, is one where they take the existing pipe, basically abandon it, and then they run a new pipe out to what would be the new channel of the river in order to keep flow in the mill race. So as we take a little deeper dive here on alternate 1, this is the full dam removal being proposed by the IDNR. Basically one of the things that you would hear, if you do this, you're really seeing no impact to Riverfront Park itself. The channel will actually shorten, and I'll show you pictures of that soon. So it won't have an effect necessarily on any of your future plans on Riverfront Park. It is the lowest cost alternative, as you'll see. Right now, is looking at $2.6 million. The local cost would be quote unquote our share or our potential share with the Fox Valley Park District, as it would be a partnership with them if the dam was to be removed. The state of Illinois is the one who would foot the bill for basically the entire dam removal. That local cost share, from what we understand, is for whatever reason they usually require the local municipality to gain any easements or small pieces of property acquisition for the construction project. If you notice here, the big con in red on the full dam removal is that you essentially lose the mill race for the majority of the year. So without that dam, the mill race goes dry for most of the year. On the next slide, it was the alternate that the village board was looking at, which was the alternate 6. There you see in the picture, it brings the culvert out to what would be the new channel. And as I said earlier, you're going to see an island start to protrude. You can see my cursor right there. So I'm going to start, we'll show you some pictures in a little bit. But as the dam is removed, it creates 2 distinct channels as opposed to one large pool of water behind the current dam area. That pipe would then run out to one of those new channels and bring water to the mill race. As you can see here, once again, minimal impact on Riverfront Park. The culvert runs underground. We could still build things in Riverfront Park, but it does keep the mill race with water. It'll be reduced, but still have water in it. This is basically taking a snapshot in time. You see the red star and that greenish blue star on the map, the photo. The red star is basically where they measure depth today, currently out in the river behind the dam, and the green one, which is right under State Street by where the mill race goes under. And what you're looking at is on the left side, that chart shows you that is the depth of the river currently, the green and the yellow. So at any given time right now, at that red dot in normal conditions, they're basically saying that the water is around 7 feet deep. When there is lower or drought conditions, it's actually only slightly less than 7 feet. So a good amount of water, 7-foot depth is pretty deep. If you look at what happens when the dam's removed, when you have the dam removed, you end up having about half a foot or so in low water conditions and just under 2 feet when you are in normal conditions. The straight culvert is also very similar. So you end up losing, once again, you're down to about 4 inches to 6 inches of depth in certain areas, and then you're at about 1.5 feet in normal conditions. The mill race is on the lower right side. And the big thing there is, if you see, that's not measured in depth, that's measured in cubic feet per second. That's the flow of water that goes through it. And what it's showing is that with the culvert, there is a significant reduction, but yet there will be water running through the mill race. But if you remove the dam completely, you basically lose the flow unless you have substantial rains or high water conditions. This next slide was just a quick comparison the state had done after all the options. And really the big issue here is if you look at option 1, Option one was quote unquote not recommended with the X, and that's because it doesn't meet our request, which was to keep the mill race with water. So basically, these two options meet the state's request of trying to restore the ecosystem and reduce safety by getting the dam out, and then we still benefit with the culvert by keeping the mill race. So total cost, once again, if you look at them side by side, the culvert option is around $400,000 to $425,000 more. Once again, the state of Illinois would be funding the overwhelming majority of the project. They would be funding over $3 million for it, and the local cost is once again just around $33,000 for easements and for property acquisition if needed. And then Brandon wanted to make sure that I point out that there's cost benefits of dam removal that if, and this will come up later when we talk about options in the future, basically there would be no maintenance costs for the village in the future, no liability to the village if we were to ever assume ownership of the dam. So now we're going to show those pictures. So the top is 1975 when the dam was breached, and you can actually see the island that started to form. And then if you look at where my cursor is up here, that is right where the culvert is right now by Riverfront Park, right outside our window. And you can see that there's actual less water and more land in these areas. Now, in 1976, when the dam was restored, the island disappears and you end up losing that shoreline that was protruding. That is going to be similar to what you see here. This is a blow up of 1975 with the dam breach. That is an overlay of what the IDNR is saying the river will look like in comparison. And as you can see here, I know it's not necessarily the easiest thing to see, but when you overlaid it, there's that protruding shoreline area. So there would be a little gap between Riverfront Park and the new channel on the eastern channel. And there's that island protruding in the middle. This slide here, the first slide, we're going to show two on water depths. So these are before and after slides. So here you have your normal depths before the dam is removed. A little confusing for me, but I had to go backwards on this one. Red actually doesn't mean shallow. Red actually means deep. So if you look here, your blues and your purples are actually your shallow areas. So when you go down here, you're looking right now, you see a lot of yellow above the dam because that's the water being held back. When the dam removes, you see a lot of that yellow go away and the orange go away, and it makes way for blues and purple because you're starting to see what a normal flow of a river would look like. It would be much shallower. In low water conditions, you see here, before the dam is removed, you still have yellows and greens. You're still looking at 6-7 feet in these areas. And then here afterwards with the dam removed, then this is once again in basically low level drought conditions. You're looking at more purples and blues. We always tell people that a good way to really see the future of the depth of the dam being removed and what it would do to the river is simply come out to the river a couple days after it rains. If you stand below the dam, you will see that you won't see any of the rock. You'll see a lot of water. When that goes back down, you see a little bit of the rock. And when it's in low water, you can literally walk out to the middle of the river and people fish right off the rock outcropping in the middle. So we put this slide together. There was that 1975 picture. There's our overlay. And then there's the green. That's the land that would now be more visible. So you'd actually start to see some shoreline reappear. And that's just zoomed in. So once again, so here's your State Street Bridge. So you'd be looking at basically two channels. So we had an awesome opportunity to kind of show you what it might look like. Before we had the rains last week, we actually had some lower water conditions in the Fox River. We were kind of outside one day and we noticed the formation of the lily pads and the different vegetation you see. And we asked our police department if they can fly the drone and take pictures for this presentation, because essentially what you're seeing is the island that exists under the water right now. And as the water level drops in those drought conditions, you're starting to see the vegetation appear very similarly to where the IDNR is predicting the island to show. Same thing on that coast right here on the shoreline. That's along Riverfront Park, and that's that area that we looked at where the shoreline might start to appear again. We took this picture just from the other angle. So there goes your State Street Bridge is right there. And so you can kind of see two very pronounced channels. So the next steps for tonight, the next steps are if the board would like to continue discussions of the potential dam removal, we will be contacting the Fox Valley Park District. We made them aware that we were having the presentation tonight. We'll be contacting them. As you might recall, they own the shoreline, so they are part of this. Right now, we're kind of heading the process, but they would be part of the final decision. If the board wanted to continue this, our goal would be to have a public input meeting, which we would coordinate with the IDNR and the Fox Valley Park District. That would most likely be at a site where we can accommodate a large amount of residents. The IDNR would do a presentation. We would get feedback from the residents on how they feel about removing the dam or keeping it. After that, just to show you how many steps are really still there, you have to bring that public input then back to the committee of the whole, so the board gets another chance to see what the residents said based on a similar presentation to this. And then if the board says, no, we want to go forward at this point and remove the dam, you still have to draft the IGA with the Fox Valley Park District in the state of Illinois. And then that IGA still has to come back to the board for approval. And if that wasn't enough, after the IGA was approved, we would still have final engineering and everything that would have to come back to the board for approval before the state can bid the project. So there's quite a bit, but we're at that point now where the study is essentially done, and we're looking for feedback from the board on where to go. And I only have a couple more slides. So at that public meeting, essentially what you would be showing the public is, do you want to leave the dam as is? Or would you look at alternative 6? Alternative 6 being that the dam is removed, but the culvert is put in so that the mill race remains. The big thing with leaving the dam as currently exists is part of the issues for the state is they're looking to, like I said earlier, reduce safety risk and to increase the ecological benefit of the area. They have ownership of the dam. It is their dam. They're looking for our feedback, but ultimately the dam could always choose to remove the state could always choose to remove the dam on their own should they want to. And what they're looking for us to give them feedback on is, in the event that we don't go forward, there is a possibility that the state could always come back to us and then say, well, we want to remove the dam, so you have to take ownership of that dam. Otherwise, we're removing it. And we would say, well, why would we want to own a dam? But the answer to that is then they've indicated that if we don't take ownership of the dam and they remove it, we essentially wouldn't get the culvert option because that's at a higher expense to them, which means you lose the mill race. So that's something that would have to be discussed at those public meetings, and to make sure this, the public knew that there is still a risk that the state can remove the dam without our decision. And then this slide basically drives that same point home. Once again, they're looking to move that liability if they're not meeting their goal of safety and the ecology, they want to then shift that potentially over to the municipalities. And if we don't accept that, then they may take actions into their own hands to remedy that. I have just a couple pictures, and this is the most recent dam removal that we thought of that was pertinent. This just happened in Carpentersville. This was also done through the IDNR. It was on forest preserve property up in the Carpentersville area in King County. You could see here, the first picture shows the dam still in place. The second picture is once the dam is removed, you start to see that the mud showed up. So this is shortly after it was demolished. It was demolished kind of in the middle, late summer. So it was already late in the growing season. So then what they wanted to show is what happened in spring when, the thaw went away and all the winter decided to move on. Then they show you September. So what you get is that gap. You will end up seeing mud at first or dirt or whatever, natural soils. But essentially what they're showing you is that eventually that will fill in a short period of time, you will see vegetation again. And you could see the large pool of water gone here. And then they got a much narrower but pronounced channel of the river. And this kind of shows it too. There's before the dam was removed, you see the large pool of water similar to ours. And then afterwards, you see now there's vegetation growing in, and you see two smaller streams of water into one. Same thing, once again, just showing here before, right after the dam was removed, and then vegetation starting to fill in again. And with that, the IDNR is here if you have any questions for them. But other than that, we're just looking for direction on whether or not you want to continue the study, in which case we'll start working on a public input session.
Yeah, I like to see option 6, keep the culvert, remove the dam. And I did talk to the elected officials up in Carpentersville, just so all my colleagues on the board know. They said they had no problem with it. I know most of the trustees and the mayor. And I think it's to our benefit to remove it and keep the culvert. That's where I'm at.
I'm also for option 6 or alternative 6. I think that the one thing that maybe wasn't mentioned tonight that was mentioned before is that there is a drowning hazard on the bottom side of the dam that's been created by the wearing away and erosion of the soil beneath the water. So I'm for alternative number 6.
With the plan that we've been talking about, to keep the mill race and get rid of the dam. I do have one question, Steve. How much diminished will the mill race be? Is there any estimate on that, or?
Yeah, Brandon, you can jump in, but I mean, it does get significantly less. So, but I want to remind everybody here, if you look at our mill race now, obviously we have a wonderful view because it's literally right outside the building, and it's not deep to begin with. Now there's a pool of water in the mill race that is kind of lines up with our front parking lot, that there's a little deeper section, but at any given time you can see the bottom. It's probably, Brian, would you say normal conditions, a foot? So, and what the worry would be is that it will go down. So I mean, there will be times where it's only a few inches.
Well, the water seems to rush through there pretty quickly. Will it continue to do that?
Well, I can, before Brandon jumps in, I'll say one thing. One of the reasons the water doesn't rush in faster than it actually could technically run more now. We have a constant issue with a broken gate that holds back the water right now, and that does reduce some of the flow currently. And Brian's guys are out from Public Works are out there constantly trying to clear debris out of it, because the debris comes in from the river, goes into that pipe, and then gets lodged by the gate. And we're talking pretty good sized logs. And so they have to break it up and open it up. So that would be something, if in a culvert option, we would have to decide how that intake would be designed.
There's a log in there now. There's some dam jammed in there.
Yeah.
Huge like a tree.
Yeah, I think the mill race would definitely have less flow through it. Maybe in low flow, maybe it's only going to be like 30-40% of what you'd see when it's low, but more median flow, it looks like you're losing maybe like 20% of the flow or so. So, I mean, there will be a drop, but yeah. I don't know if the IDR, do you remember how many feet? I don't know exactly.
Basically part of the river to be diverted into mill race. So it was,
Yeah, and I believe
set up to try and be during normal flow conditions, like by about 3/4 full.
Yeah, and I know they have to lower the elevation of the end of the pipe that goes out there too to get the water. So.
He discussed this before, I remember, and then went on and on about it. And the engineer did say it can be done, and there will be some flow. Yeah, there's a reduction in the flow, but there's going to be essentially you're going to have a mill race, either that or not have a mill race.
Yeah, I think like with more, they'll probably like during final design, they'll look into it further and kind of hone in on the exact elevation to figure it out. But
What's the diameter of the pipe now?
I believe it's 36-inch pipe. Or is it 54? Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine moving forward with the process, but if we can drag it out another decade or so, that's what I'd be for.
Yeah, we keep moving forward. I guess just a general kind of curious. So the Carpensville Dam, did you guys did a study like this, I'm assuming, for them? Or no? Or
Not do a study, and that the reason was because they had already agreed they wanted it. They didn't have any choice.
okay, no, I was just curious. Like, I would love to have seen the projection like they're doing for us, and how does it compare to what actually happened? So if it didn't happen, that's okay. Just curious.
Alternate 6 as well. So yeah, I think we ought to move forward and
Move
where
forward.
it goes. And
Okay.
anything else?
No, that's
All
it.
right. No exec session, motion adjourned.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
I
I
Have a good night, everyone.